Welcome, I'm PalantirPointers, and in this video I'll talk about the story of Thorin Oakenshield. Long ago, in a time when tales were woven from the fabric of legend, a dwarf named Thorin entered the world. Born in the year 2746, amidst the splendor of the Lonely Mountain, his destiny was intertwined with the fate of his kin and the ancient lands they called home. Thorin was still a youngster, by dwarves' reckoning, when the dragon Smaug descended upon the mountain of Erebor in flames. Smaug left the mannish town of Dale in ruins and killed many dwarves who were inside the mountain. Thorin and Thrain escaped using a secret backdoor. Meanwhile, Thorin was one of the few dwarves who were not inside the mountain at the time. Thus, the surviving dwarves of Erebor were driven into exile, and Thror, Thrain, and Thorin fled south and ended up to Dunland. Disillusioned by the situation that was presented to them, Thorin's grandfather Thror wandered to the eastern gate of Moria, the old mansion of the Longbeards, now infested by orcs. He entered it and ended up murdered and desecrated by the orc Azog. These news were brought by his companion Nar to Thrain. Thus, the war of the dwarves and orcs began. The war was fought long and hard between the two races, ultimately ending in a Pyrrhic dwarven victory at the Battle of Azanul Bazaar in 2799. Both Thrain and Thorin were wounded during this battle, and Frerin was killed. When his shield broke, he cut a bough from an oak tree to block the blows of his foes. Despite victory, no dwarf dared to re-enter Moria out of fear of Durin's bane. In memory of this, Thorin swore to always bear a plain shield of oak, with no device until he should be hailed king, and thus he earned the epithet Oakenshield. After crying for his loved ones, Thrain, Thorin, and the other survivors of Durin's folk left Azanul Bazaar and returned to Dunland. However, they soon began to wander Erebor before settling at last in the Blue Mountains. Here they prospered in their own fashion, forging iron objects and increasing their numbers. Nonetheless, they all still longed to return to the Lonely Mountain. By this time, Thrain was in possession of the last of the 7 rings of power. It is possible that as Sauron's power grew, so too did the ring's influence over Thrain. His burning desire for gold and to return to the Lonely Mountain became too great, and in 2841 he set out to return. Thorin, that at that time he of 95, was never to see his father again. When Thrain was captured by the Necromancer, the key of Erebor was given to Gandalf in 2850 by Thrain, just before he died in the dungeons of the Necromancer in Dol Guldur. Thorin became the king of Durin's folk. Him and his people were content living in the Blue Mountains in Erebor, but as the years waned, Thorin's desire to return to Erebor grew. In 2941, Gandalf the Grey found Thorin in the prancing pony at Bree and set in motion a scheme to retake the mountain. Thorin then took a contingent of 12 dwarves to visit Bilbo Baggins. Gandalf's instinct was that the quest of Erebor would only be successful if Bilbo accompanied them. Gandalf invited Thorin and other dwarves to Hobbiton in the Shire, instructing them to look for a smile whose door was marked with the sign of the thief. Thus, Thorin found himself in Bag End, where they perused the hobbits' hospitality. However, he and the dwarves were not convinced. It was not until Gandalf revealed Thror's map and key that Thorin was convinced that the quest would be profitable to him, and from that moment, he kept it fastened to a chain around his neck. Even after the unexpected party, Gandalf only persuaded Thorin to take Bilbo on the morning that they set off. In order to hire him as a burglar for their mission, Thorin intended to infiltrate the Lonely Mountain and retake the treasure from Smaug. Thus it was that in 2941, Thorin set off for the Lonely Mountain with Gandalf, Bilbo Baggins, Fili, Kili, Balin, Dwalin, Dori, Nori, Ori, Oin, Gloin, Bifur, Bofur, and Bombur. A short time into the journey, the adventurers found a troll's cave. Here they found a hoard of treasure, which included blades made in the ancient city of Gondolin. Bilbo found a knife that he named Sting. Gandalf acquired Glamdring, and meanwhile Thorin found Orcrist. In Rivendell, the company rested, and Elrond translated the moon letters on Thror's map. He also read the inscriptions on the blades and informed them of their swords' histories. During their journey through Mirkwood, Thorin and his company encountered spiders and were later imprisoned by the Elven King Thranduil. However, they escaped in barrels and traveled down to Lake Town. Thorin and company were greeted warmly by the people of Lake Town and hailed as the return of the king under the mountain. They soon reached the Lonely Mountain and the dwarves sent Bilbo inside, who conversed with a newly awakened Smaug. Realizing that the lake men must have helped the intruders, an enraged Smaug flew towards Laketown to take revenge. There he was killed by Bard the bowman, who pierced the bare spot on Smaug's left breast with his black arrow. Following the death of Smaug, the people of Laketown asked Thorin for a share of the treasure, as they wanted recompense for the destruction of their home, a part of Smaug's treasure originating from their former city, and because a man of Laketown who shot the fatal arrow that killed Smaug. Thorin, overwhelmed by greed after recovering his family's riches, and enraged by the presence of Thranduil, refused to share any part of the treasure. Instead, he sent a raven to seek aid from his relative, Dine Ironfoot, who sent a force of dwarven soldiers on the move to secure the reclaimed mountain city. Meanwhile, Thorin charged his companions with looking for the Arkenstone within the hoard of treasure, and gifted Bilbo a mithril shirt for his bravery. However, Bilbo had already found the Arkenstone, and subsequently brought it to Bard and Thranduil in secret to use as a bargaining counter. When Thorin learned of this, he became enraged and denounced his former companion as a traitor. The growing conflict over the treasure between dwarves, elves, and men, likely to result in bloodshed, was suddenly averted by the approach of goblin and warg armies, so they instead joined forces to defeat their common enemies in what was later called the Battle of Five Armies. During the battle, Thorin led an assault that proved his strength as a leader, striking out from the mountain and providing vital aid as the goblins threatened to overwhelm his allies. He fought courageously, but was mortally wounded in the battle, requiring Beorn to take him to safety. Before he died, he made his peace with Bilbo by commending the hobbit's bravery and good character, apologizing for his harsh words as he now recognized his comrade's fundamentally benevolent motives. In the end, it was not gold or glory that defined Thorin's legacy, but the bonds of friendship and the courage to face his own mortality. As Thorin Oakenshield passed into legend, his words echoed through the ages, a reminder that true wealth lies not in gold, but in the simple joys of kinship and camaraderie. And so the tale of Thorin Oakenshield, King Under the Mountain, passed into memory, a testament to the enduring spirit of the dwarven race and the power of hope in the darkest of times. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and comment. Until next time.